Hi everyone! We finally have all the information about the raid campaign and Assassin's Creed. We're going to take a look at that together. In this video, we're going to look at all the other champions here, the champions that are truly god tier who will be released during this campaign. So all the information, we're going to cover everything in this video. Afterwards, I won't repeat everything I've already said in previous videos to avoid, for those who have seen the previous videos, saying, but I've already heard that. This way, at least you can watch the previous videos on the Alucard channel. So there you go, you can watch it. All right, let's start with the visuals, but I won't spend too much time on that. Here are the new visuals that will be coming to the game. Here, these are all the champions. We'll see them one after another. So these are the champions. So let's take a look. So we have the champions. Here there are 6 legendaries. We have Ezio, who will be guaranteed. We'll have the Cassandra fusion that we saw in the last video. And then we have the other 4 champions here. So the 3 champions, Bayek, Basim, and Edward, who will be available during events in the game. So these will be events, and there will probably be times 2, times 10. Well, not times 2, but times 15 events. Pontiff will be available all the time, while all the others will only be available until April 8th. After that, you will not be able to get them anymore. You'll still be able to get him later on. So those are the details. Ezio, here, we've already talked about him. He will be free for everyone. There you go, we've already discussed that. I'm not going to talk too much about it. There's Cassandra, the fusion. We've already talked about her too. The champions here, we'll look at them one after another. I'll read their abilities and then share my thoughts afterwards. The new faction, we've already discussed it. Just for those who haven't seen it. The video, very quickly. If you want to get Lydia, hurry up and do it. Because Lydia, in 3 months, there will be a bunch of champions coming out, and then the faction will be released. I think it'll be at the end of the year, maybe the beginning of next year. At the very latest, hurry up if you want to get Lydia, but you still have a little bit of time. As for the event, we've already talked about it, and we've already discussed this too. I got stuck on the translation here. I don't remember who translated it, but thanks to the person who did, I really got stuck. So the ignore def is reduced on him. Last bit of information before we move on to the champions, we're going to have avatar frames and the badge. The badge is like always. As soon as you have all the champions from this campaign, you'll get it. And here, these are event rewards. So for the champions, I already read ahead so I wouldn't get stuck on the translations. Here we start with Bayek, who is a legendary void. Defense Barbarian. He attacks once with his A1, he applies a debuff without turn meter reduction, and he increases his own turn meter by 20%. So if you use counterattack, ally attack, or other similar effects, it helps boost his turn meter, which is pretty good. For example, for Hydra, the debuff without turn meter reduction is quite useful, and for the clan boss as well. But for the clan boss, be careful, you will not be increasing the turn meter, but the debuff without turn meter reduction is a debuff I find quite... In early game, he's extremely strong. In end game, a bit less so, but still pretty good. He's still pretty good. His A2 attacks all enemies every 3 turns when booked. He applies a decreased accuracy and a decreased resistance debuff. It will apply a provocation debuff to all opponents for 1 turn, but if the opponent has more than 3 debuffs, it will apply a debuff. Provocation. For the Hydra, that's excellent. Reduced accuracy, reduced resistance. The provocation for the head that debuffs is perfect, so yeah, that's pretty good. His A3, he will apply an accuracy increase to all allies. For 2 turns, he gives perfect veil and a defense boost to all allies. Except himself, because he will only give himself a defense boost. So it's a bit like usual, since he's the one who will take the focus. Because when you have a perfect veil, opponents can't attack the other allies, and only he can be targeted. It gives him an extra turn, so every 4 turns, in other words, after 3 turns, he does this. That's really not bad, honestly, that's really not bad. So for him, the gameplay is really tanky, it's going to be very tanky. However, he'll need accuracy because he's the only one who, because he isn't one of the assassins, I'm not sure, I really don't know, but he'll need accuracy to land his debuffs. Whereas for the others, as soon as you put up a veil, that's why he puts veils on the other allies. Because when the others have a veil, there's no need for accuracy. His passive, when this champion and his allies can't receive critical damage, or rather critical hits, when the opponent's accuracy is lower than his own accuracy. That is to say, this is extremely strong, really, I find it very, very powerful. For the arena, it's just insanely strong, because nukers, the characters who deal damage, it's very rare that you put 300 accuracy on them. Normally you'll have 200 to 220 accuracy on them, at most, for those who are really endgame. but you're not going to put accuracy on your nukers because that's a loss of damage. And so here, this directly counters that, because since they're going to have accuracy, he has accuracy and everything, he's going to increase accuracy with his buffs, which means that normally the nukers will have less accuracy. And so it will be impossible for them to land a critical hit, and if you can't land a critical hit, that means 0 damage. So I find that really, really strong. Don't hesitate to let me know what you think in the comments. But this one, I think he's Void Affinity, so that's why he's Void. But really, really strong. His second passive is that as soon as an enemy passes, well, there you go, so him. He's one of the assassins. Because as soon as an enemy drops below 25%, he'll attack. And for him, it's going to be based on his defense. For him, it's going to be with his defense, and as a result, it will ignore the enemy's defense. And he increases pressure in all battles by 70%. Bayek is really, really strong, and on top of that, he'll work very well with other champions. We'll have to see how we can get him, but even so, just already. If you can get him along with the other 2 free champions for the fusion and the free champion, that could be pretty good. Because then you'll have your perfect veil up all the time. Well, not all the time, but maybe there'll be one turn where you don't have the perfect veil. But normally with him you go full speed, so it's actually pretty good. So Edward attacks an enemy 3 times, which is perfect for the Fire Knight. Each attack has a 75% chance increased to 100% when he's booked. To reduce the turn meter by 15% for Fire Knight, that's perfect again. Each attack will reduce it by 25% if it's a critical hit. You're really, really strong. That means here, you attack an opponent and you reduce their turn meter by 75%. When it's a critical hit, anyway, you're going to build for crit if it's an attack type character. Here, it has to be a nuker. It has to be a nuker. Well, it's impossible to succeed if it's Veil or Perfect Veil. So if you're a champion who applies Veil or Perfect Veil, that's perfect. The second attack hits all enemies twice. The first hit will steal all buffs from the opponents and reduce their turn meter by 20%. Again, impossible to resist if there are buffs. The second hit at 100% if it's booked applies a 1-turn sleep debuff, and it's impossible. Well, if it's a critical hit, it even goes through debuff blocks. It can't be resisted if there are perfect veils. That's every 3 turns when it's booked. If we have the A3 attacks one enemy and before attacking puts a perfect veil on this champion, so that's good because he can put the perfect veil on himself. And also on all allies for 2 turns, the assassin allies. That's not bad. If you don't have Bayek, this lets you put perfect veils on all your allies who are assassins. It will go through shields, stone skins, and damage blocks. He will also place a block revive on the opponent if they are killed. So that's every 3 turns. I think this attack is going to do a lot of damage. I think so. We'll have to see the damage multiplier. So now the passive, where as soon as it drops below 25%, he will attack and it will be with the damage from his attack. And here his passive is that with every attack that is... Wait, yes. There you go, every attack made by this champion. It will apply the snare debuff, which means you won't be able to increase the opponent's turn meter. In other words, the opponent won't be able to increase it. Their turn meter, so by 100% for 2 turns. And if this champion kills an opponent, it places a debuff on all enemies. And it also reduces the turn meter by 20%. It's impossible to resist if the debuff is present. Veil, or rather Veil. And this champion deals 20% more damage. Additionally to targets that have the snare debuff. Very, very strong. It's actually pretty good. In fact, it's a nuker champion who also allows you to control the opponent's turn meter. Which is... I'm thinking about it, but I think it's pretty rare. Are there any other champions who really do that? The thing is, we'll see if it's a big nuker or not, if it's a real nuker or not. But I'm trying to think of a big nuker who really reduces the turn meter. A big hitter, he doesn't do a ton of damage, he can reduce the turn meter, but it's not on all his attacks. I don't see any champion who reduces the turn meter on all their attacks, because here it's 75%, here it's going to be 20%. Here, he doesn't do it, and here he doesn't do it. But I think it's this attack that's going to do the most damage, that's going to kill an opponent, and which as a result will reduce the turn meter here by 20%. I think so. I think that's it, because otherwise here, if this follows that, it does a lot of damage. Saying we're going to get the 40%, I do not know. I think it is that attack that is going to do a lot of damage. I think it is the A3. Personally, I think that's what it's going to be. The passive, the last one, Legendary Attack Force, he attacks an enemy twice with his weapon. He has a 50% chance to place a weaken debuff for 2 turns. If this champion is under Perfect Veil, it goes up to 100%. And he has a 50% chance, under Perfect Veil, a 100% chance to do a debuff spread. That means he will take a random debuff, and he will place it on all enemies. That's actually pretty good for anything related to Hydra Wrath. It's actually pretty good. 2 attacks all enemies. He will ignore 15% of each enemy's death. He will ignore 30% if he is under Veil or Perfect Veil. Perfect Veil. He has a 100% chance, when booked, to place a block active skills debuff for 2 turns. And this debuff will ignore debuff blocks. If he's under Veil or Perfect Veil, even better. That's really strong too. It's really strong because the debuff block gets bypassed. And if an enemy had a champion who could debuff on their side, actually no, because there's an active skill block. And it's rare, champions who debuff with their main skill. Actually, there aren't any, it's only with the passive. 100 to 3. Well, actually, yes, there are. Wait, what's his name again? Isn't it Bloodthirsty? There is one, I can't remember which. 100 to 3. Attacks one enemy twice. It will increase damage by 5% for each buff and debuff on this champion, and 5% for buffs and debuffs on the opponents. It goes up to 100%. Actually, it cannot go higher, because in any case we have 10. Oh, no, well, no, 6, it could have gone higher, because you can have a maximum of 10 debuffs on the opponent, 10 debuffs on us, and then you can have buffs on us too, so yeah, it could have gone over 100. Forget what I said. And it will place a Perfect Veil on all. Ah, no, it's only on this champion. And it will give them an extra turn. So that means they'll attack twice, then after that they'll take a turn, and then they'll do this. It's not bad because here they put themselves under a Perfect Veil, which lets them get through buff blocks. Honestly, it's not bad. We'll have to see what kind of damage it does, but it's not bad. His passive, like the other assassins, and his second passive is that when this champion attacks, he will steal a random buff from the opponent, and he will take one of his own buffs and put it on the opponent. It can't be the polymorph. And it will ignore 15% of the opponent's resistance if this champion is under Veil or Perfect Veil. Perfect. The thing I'm wondering is, does it happen before the attack? If it happens before the attack, that could be pretty good. Because if, for example, it's a Deku attacking and he steals the attack buff, that's actually pretty nice. And if he puts the defense break debuff on himself, well, he swaps the defense break. That's pretty good too. And it's a 30% attack boost in all battles. So there you go, all the champions. Clearly, I think we'll have to wait for the test server to try out the champions. We'll see. But honestly, I think that all the champions together, it's going to be a bit like the Turtles. It's going to be a little bit OP. So there you go. If you can get the champions, we'll see how it's going to work to get the champions. I think there will be Decks of Fate. There are going to be quite a few things. We don't have any more information about that for now. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. And we'll see each other again for more videos. Alright, bye everyone.